topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
What's working on purpose anyway? Each week, we ponder the answer to this question. People ache for meaning and purpose at work, to contribute their talents passionately and know their lives really matter. They crave being part of an organization that inspires them and helps them grow into realizing their highest potential. Business can be such a force for good in the world, elevating humanity. In our program, we provide guidance and inspiration to help usher in this world we all want, working on purpose. Now, here's your host, Dr. Elise Cortez.
Welcome back to the Working on Purpose program. Thanks for tuning in again this week. Great to have you. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez, and I've been hosting the show since February of 2015. If we have not met yet and you don't know me, I'm a management consultant, organizational logotherapist, speaker, and author. My team and I at Elise Cortez & Associates help companies to enliven and fortify their operations by articulating their purpose and building inspirational leaders and cultures activated by meaning and purpose to turn those companies from a flatline EKG to a vibrant destination workplace. There, people are intrinsically motivated to perform at their best, grow to their full potential, and are committed to stay and help deliver on the company's mission. You can learn more about us and how we can work together at elisecortez.com. Today's program, we have with us Alex Brueckmann. He is a strategy facilitator, speaker, and author. He talks about the power of strategy and identity, transformation, leadership, purpose, impact, and legacy. He is the author of Secrets of Next Level Entrepreneurs, 11 Powerful Lessons to Thrive in Business and Lead a Balanced Life, which we'll be discussing today. He joins today from Vancouver, British Columbia. Alex, welcome to Working on Purpose.
Thank you for having me at your show. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome. This is a gorgeous book. I have to tell you, I thank you very much for finding your way onto my show and so that I get to read this, because I do read the books cover to cover of my guests. I needed this book. Thank you, Alex. This little bit about balanced life as an entrepreneur. What's that? So here we are. We're releasing this show on the 4th of July. It's supposed to be the day of freedom. So I think it's very, very timely that you and I are here on air talking about your book. So welcome.
Thank you very much. That topic about balance in life and in business, it's a funny one because you would typically not necessarily find it in a business book. So there's a lot of people who actually tell me, that's a term I stumbled across when I read the title, and that made me actually interested in the book.
Mm-hmm. I was just sharing it with the man that I've been seeing who's also an entrepreneur, and I said, hey, we need to read that. You need to read this book too. I just finished it. Now I'm going to give it to you. So thank you for trying to inject some sanity into the world here. So as we get started here, Alex, first I have to ask, where are you originally from with that fantastic accent?
I'm German. I moved to Vancouver, Canada, not even 3.5 years ago. Love brought me there. As it is always, it's either love or work. In my case, it was the first.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, I'm from the Northwest originally, so I feel connected to Canada as well. So, all right, let's get into the topic. One of the things I also appreciated is you helped me to recognize and remember why I'm an entrepreneur. So if we start by looking at, you say becoming an entrepreneur happens for many different reasons. For some, it's a way to get out of the pitfalls of corporate America. For others, it's to take control of their time and schedule, supposedly. The fulfillment that comes out of bringing something into the world through their zone or spiral of genius. That can be the thing that jazzes them up. Of course, for me, that's why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I have something specific that I want to bring to the world through my consulting in the way that I see the world of work. And so it's wonderful to be able to situate that this is what the show is about. This is about entrepreneurship. And you have given us 11 powerful lessons to do it better and with more sanity. So I want to start first by celebrating entrepreneurship.
If that's not a great cause to celebrate, what else is, right?
Yeah, it's not for everybody, right? So some of the things that you say here's what I'm doing is I'm pulling out some of the things in your book that really spoke to me, and that we kind of curate the content that we've already built already on the show. So you then provide us with 3 mission critical pillars that contribute to building future-proof businesses, which of course, you being the strategy guy, number 1 is strategy, 2 is leadership, and then 3 is this amazing thing called self-care. So I just want to give you a chance to speak briefly to those three things, and then I'll delve into the different themes.
Yeah, the first theme is really around hard skills that every business leader needs to master, whether you run your own business or whether you're a leader climbing the ladder in a larger organization. At one point or another, if you want a seat at the next table, you will have to understand those three hard skills in that first theme: strategy, strategic pricing of your services, and what does that mega trend that will never leave us again of sustainability actually mean for our business. The second theme is around leading self and leading teams through challenging times. When you imagine that book, the idea behind the book, the summit that I ran, a 3-day business summit with more than 40 speakers, that happened at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. So when we actually then distilled the essence out of that event and poured it into the book, what we realized is that challenging times and the conflicts that arise through these challenging times, that's where leadership is front and center and more necessary than ever. So when you are able to lead a company and lead your people through these times and get rid of the negativity that comes with the changes and the conflicts that arise and use that as a force to create something powerful for the future, that is the essence of leadership to me. And the third theme that comes with that is you can only do that if you take care of your own sanity, of your own mind. And that's why this third piece is called, this third theme is called self-care. And we talk about topics that are deeper than just the regular items that you would find in a business book. It's really about understanding who you are, why you want to lead, why you are an entrepreneur, and how can you actually make sure that you live a life by design, not by default.
Mm-hmm. I really appreciate and applaud that third theme. I don't know too many business books or books on entrepreneurship that I've seen that really treat the importance of self-care. So, and I got a lot out of that section too. So it would be nice to be able to work not 7 days a week. It would be nice not to do that. So I'm going to learn from you, Alex. I promise I will.
Let me say one thing, Elise.
Yes.
If you take that last theme, like literally, you can actually work 7 days a week by design because that's what you love.
And that's what's happening now. That is what's happening now. Yes.
Yeah. If it energizes you, it's the right thing for you, at least for that point in your life.
Yes, thank you for that. And that is where I'm at right now. I mean, I'm creating all kinds of things, but I don't want to do that forever.
Yeah.
Right? And when I say forever, I mean not like for the next. I mean, I'm happy to just say the next 6 months, and then after that, let's maybe go to 6 and then 5 days. So one of the things too that you wrote, and I'm going to read it because it's just so compellingly written. You say there are exceptional organizations that combine strategy and purpose into something impactful, providing meaning and direction to employees, suppliers, customers, and shareholders. To avoid falling into the marketing trap of purpose statements without anchoring, purpose needs a strategy, and vice versa. So I appreciate very much how you really marry, because this show is very much anchored in meaning and purpose, but you bring the strategy piece to that. And I like how you really distilled those two and how they work together.
Let me put it that way. Purpose without strategy is a good intent.
Yeah.
And if you're lucky, you can do something with that. And on the other hand, strategy without purpose is mainly about profit maximization,
right,
which does not give anything to this world, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But if you bring those two together, if you understand how they are connected, and then obviously this whole conversation around culture comes into play. How do you create an organization that is purpose-driven and take that purpose, weave it into your business strategy so that it can actually create tangible impact, and use leadership to create a culture that is linked to the strategy. So strategic leadership in this case, in this sense, only then does having a purpose actually matter. If you have a purpose and you don't weave it into a business strategy, it's something for the posters on the walls.
Yeah.
People become cynical about it. very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's within the business. And people outside of the business, if you don't combine the two, they're like, yeah, well, you're not doing that. Why do you even claim you're doing that? So I had a recent conversation where the gist of it is, before you actually write down your purpose statement, own it, earn your right to write it down. Then people can be like, yeah, that's them. That makes sense. That's how they show up. But if you do it the other way around, these purpose statements get weaponized. So if you weave it into your strategy, if you're creating that visible, tangible impact for the world, for your stakeholder groups, I think this is the most powerful thing you can do with purpose.
Mm-hmm. I would agree, absolutely. And the other thing, of course, that, and you just mentioned it earlier, that I really think we have to talk about, and this is so interesting because it's increasingly showing up, as an imperative, is this notion on creating a sustainable impact through your business. And you talk about a 3E model for impact, and I want to talk about each one of those things. But first, this whole notion here, you say that the model. It provides businesses a structured approach to leverage and communicate their good work and create transformational impact and growth, which is fantastic. And what I've said in my last book, The Great Revitalization, is, today we have to do that in today's business in order to be taken seriously. So, excuse me, would you take us through the three pieces of that model?
So that model is actually not my model. Credit where credit is due. This chapter was written and contributed by Sheetal Kular. Sheetal is a sustainability expert. She lives in Singapore, and she has created that model and describes in that chapter how we can actually educate and engage clients, customers in different ways using our sustainability efforts. So let me give you a specific example, because I think it needs to be tangible for people that listen to us right now. When you are doing good with your business through how you do your business, you should actually talk about it. Otherwise, people, first of all, don't realize it. And second of all, you leave a massive source of revenue untapped. A great example, which is really well known, is Unilever. While Unilever does a lot of things that I don't agree with and that could be done differently, they are also on the forefront when it comes to creating more sustainable supply chains, for example, for their big well-known product, Lipton tea. That's a few years back where they actually sat down and said, okay, how can we reverse engineer a supply chain that does less harm to the planet, that provides better working conditions for the tea farmers, and less harmful ways of doing business overall? And what they did was they basically didn't leave any stone unturned. And then they were like, yeah, well, what do we do with what we've achieved right now? And then they used their existing marketing budget and just shifted the messages from, this is the most delicious tea in the world, to, hey, if you drink Lipton tea, that's what you actually support. And by doing that, by using their existing marketing budgets, they made a business case out of their sustainability efforts. They tapped into the potential of an entirely new target group. Not only was this target group willing to pay a bit more for their tea once they know that it is sustainably sourced, but also the wider public realized that, wait a minute, sustainability is not necessarily a cost factor. You can actually make money with that. Mm-hmm. And that is something really, really powerful. And that 3E model basically is about understanding how you can educate your customers around the topic of sustainability, engage them in your sustainability efforts, and create new touch points with them, new talking points, and help them see you in a new light, in a different light.
Beautiful. And so what I also appreciate about that too is, especially in the work that I do around meaning and purpose, is especially the younger generations, the Ys and the Zs, of course, they want to be part, they want to actually work for an organization that they feel like they can align around their purpose, the work is meaningful, and that they are supporting something that they value. So I really appreciate how tight that model is. And I think you also say this in the book too, about how sustainability doesn't have to cost money. It can actually create money, make money for you, as you were saying. And then the circular piece of it as well. I like how you addressed and treated the circular aspects of sustainability. Just really interesting, compelling stuff, Alex, you and your team.
I think what you bring up here with the generational question, that is something that we've heard a lot about. If we take a closer look at what the difference is between, let's say, the boomers, the Gen Xers, the Ys and the Zs, and whoever comes afterwards, I don't even think that it's a generational thing. I believe they are just more outspoken. I'm a Gen Xer, and I don't think that my values around sustainability are a generational question. And also, I know a lot of boomers and other Gen Xers that think the same way. It's less a question of generation. It's more a question of, do I align what I value with how I operate and how I lead a business? And I believe that these generations have more, they are just more outspoken about it. And that's why we often associate this trait with their generations rather than with what we actually value as human beings, if that makes sense.
It does. I think maybe part of it, though, is that they have maybe we just didn't question it the way that they do.
Exactly.
Right. So whereas the boomers, and I'm also an Xer too, would be like, well, I've got to get a job. I've got to take care of things. I think some of these other generations are like, well, I don't actually have to work right now. I can be on my parents' sofa. I can do whatever and choose to opt out of something that rather than just go along with it. So I think that aligns with what you're saying about being more vocal about it. Very interesting.
Totally.
I love talking about things like this, though. All right, let's grab our first break. We've been on the air with Alex Brueckmann. He is the author of Secrets of Next Level Entrepreneurs, 11 Powerful Lessons to Thrive in Business and Lead a Balanced Life. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. After the break, we're going to get into some of the aspects of his book around disruption and leadership. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Dr. Elise Cortez is a management consultant specializing in meaning and purpose, an inspirational speaker and author. She helps companies visioneer for greater purpose among stakeholders and develop purpose-inspired leadership and meaning-infused cultures that elevate fulfillment, performance, and commitment within the workforce. To learn more or to invite Elise to speak to your organization, please visit her at elisecortez.com. Let's talk about how to get your employees working on purpose. This is Working on Purpose with Dr. Elise Cortez. To reach our program today or to open a conversation with Elise, send an email to Elise, A-L-I-S-E, at elisecortez.com. Now, back to Working on Purpose.
Thanks for staying with us and welcome back to Working on Purpose. Before we get back into the program, I do want to share with you something that we're up to here at Elise Cortez and Associates. We are joining an organization called Joyly for a Purpose and Joy tour. This is a collaboration between the two of us, and they teach mindful practices to build happy, healthy, resilient world. And of course, we at Elise Cortez and Associates are out to be able to activate meaning and purpose in company culture and leadership to increase fulfillment, performance, and retention. What we're doing together is we're going to various cities across the United States. We started in Dallas in March. We're finishing in Virginia Beach in October to find our tribe and build a community of people who seek to elevate their lives and businesses by cultivating meaning, purpose, and joy. The next stops are Seattle and Portland in July. You can find more about the cities and our agenda at gusto-now.com. If you're just joining the program, my guest is Alex Brueckmann. He is a strategy facilitator, speaker, and author, and he's the author of Secrets of Next Level Entrepreneurs, 11 Powerful Lessons to Thrive in Business and Lead a Balanced Life. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. Okay, so next thing I want to talk about here, Alex, is this little thing called disruption. And you have this whole section about mastering disruption. And so I wanted to have you speak a little bit about, first, this notion of what's the opportunity when it comes to change and disruption.
Yeah, the chapter about disruption in the book was contributed by New York Times bestselling author Charlene Lee. She is probably the most prominent name when it comes to how do I actually use disruption for good in a business. Her book, The Disruption Mindset, talks volumes about this. And in her chapter, what she describes in this book is that there is just no way around being honest when it comes to disruption. So telling your people, hey, everything's going to be all right, is not cutting it, right? So people don't believe that anyway anymore after what we've been through in the past 3 years. So first of all, you cannot predict the future as a leader. So don't stand there and pretend that you know the way. You don't. No one does. The world has become way too complex, and there is disruption happening on a constant basis right now that we've seen in the business world. Like if you go 20, 30 years back, you would have seen this type of disruption maybe once or twice in your lifetime. Now we've seen it like every year. Big events that disrupt how we operate, for example, COVID-19, business disruptions through supply chain issues. Then we have the entire topic of tech. The conversations around ChatGPT over the past 6 months, which is just a tiny fraction of the AI landscape as such. Just this little piece has caused tremendous disruption in how people operate their businesses. I personally know an entrepreneur who went out of business because they realized that what they are actually doing, their core value contribution, is actually easier and more cheaper done with a tool like ChatGPT. So they realized very early that there is little future if you are in that particular space. So there is disruption happening all around us every day. And the question is, how do you actually use it as a force for good in your business? How do you approach disruption in your business? And when we talk about the how, we are actually talking about how do you lead through disruption and how can you create that mindset of disruption in an organization. And what I mean with that is not how do you deal with disruption that's happening around you, but what I actually mean is how can you create a culture that is driving disruption in a good way. So for you and your business, what does disruption actually mean? How can you disrupt your own business in ways that are in line with who we are as human beings? As human beings, we hate disruption. We hate change. We just love to stay where we are in our cozy little bubble, in our bed with the blankets over our heads, and just, energy savers. That's just how we're wired as human beings. We want to preserve as much energy as we can and use it when we are chased by the saber-toothed tiger. That's just how it is, right? When we have to run away, when there's danger around us, that's when we need our energy. But we're not really good at change and inflicting change or disruption upon ourselves. So the question is, how can you create a culture that can deal with external disruption on the one hand, in a way where you're like, yeah, that's just the normal, that's just how we operate, but also internally, how can you align your people around a mindset of disruption that enables them to not be the victim of disruption, but the force behind the disruption within your own business. And if you're able to do that, that's nothing that happens by itself. Right. That is something that needs strong leadership and that takes time. But there is no better time to start doing these things than now. Because honestly speaking, I have almost spent my entire adult life in one crisis or another. When you go back like 20, 25 years ago, dot-com bubble burst, first crisis. Then comes the economic crisis. Then comes the refugee crisis. Then comes the housing market bubble that bursts. And we are in 2008, 2009. There is just one thing after the next. And disruption is happening all around us all the time. So it's the illusion of working in a business where you are separate from what's happening around you or protected from what's happening in the industry you're in. That's just something you need to get rid of in your organization. And understanding that is important for equipping your business for survival. If you are the only one driving your business toward that desired state in the future, you're fighting a losing battle. You need everyone on that ship to understand what their role is in steering the company and being able to understand when the tide shifts, when the wind shifts, that there are things that need to be done differently. But if you have people rowing against the tide all the time, because that's what they've always done, they've rowed in that direction, then I'm not a sailor, but I think you get the gist of it. It's very, very dangerous for an organization to be to have a culture that is not clear on how to interact with the topic of disruption, how to drive it.
I think that's really powerful, Alex. Really, really powerful. In other words, not just normalizing disruption, but embracing it and activating the organization to run with it. I think that's really powerful. So thank you for being able to really speaking to that so deeply. So then the next thing we have to talk about, because this is definitely an area of mine that I'm really fascinated with. And as a social scientist, I'm very interested in what the pandemic has done to the world and certainly the workplace and to the people that are actually powering it, the employees. So you say in your book, there is no doubt that business and the workplace have shifted forever due to the pandemic, but change doesn't have to have a negative connotation, even if it's uncomfortable. It's important to be adaptable. It means you need to change how you think about work and employees. Instead of counting how many hours your people are in the office and equating that to their work ethic or efficiency, you need to start measuring results. Yes, sir. Yesterday, please. And you say that may sound ludicrous, but perhaps that's how it always should have been. I'm very fascinated with this, Alex, because I see that there's been a very strong focus on presenteeism. If I see you, then I think you're working. If I can't see you, I'm not sure you're working. It's the wrong measurement. It's the wrong way to look at the whole thing. And I'm very interested in being part of the conversation that stewards the workplace of the future. Would you speak a little bit to this notion here of how the world and workplace has changed?
I have run my business partly remotely for the past decade. And the reason is just in the nature of what I do for a living. Mm-hmm. I am with my clients a lot, but my team works in the office. So wherever that team sits, I had to do my job as a leader as well, not only as someone who helps his clients. So for me, this has become normal to see the results that my team produces rather than seeing them while they are producing those results.
Yes. And
I actually don't care where my people sit and work. That's totally up to them. Why would I want them to sit in an office when I'm not even there? I mean, there are obviously reasons why it could make sense to come together from time to time. But there should be a specific purpose behind that. Mm-hmm. If I bring people together just to sit in an office and everyone goes about their own stuff, they can do that from anywhere. But if I bring them together to collaborate on a specific topic, there is a purpose behind that, and then it makes sense. So when I see all these C-level executives from, I don't want to name any particular companies, but you've listened to these C-suite executives, especially in the tech world, that are now demanding their people to come back to the offices.
Yes,
I'm just stunned by
I am too.
Stupid this is. This is just they're missing out on a unique opportunity to shape the future of work here.
I completely agree.
And what they're actually doing is they're driving away talent who is not willing to go back to these outdated old principles of command and control. Yes. If you are not able to produce results and achieve results through your team, leading them remotely, that is not the problem of these people. That's a problem of your leadership. But it's really difficult to change the way you lead once you've have a certain way of leadership ingrained in your system for a decade or maybe even longer. It's very easy to command and control and ask people to go back to the office and threaten them to get fired if they don't. I mean, it's 2023. That's just so 1990s. It's ridiculous how outdated it is. And still it's happening. I bet that we will anyway see a shift. There are so many companies that embrace it, big companies that I'm working with that are like, we have a hybrid work model now, and it is a privilege to work with us. For example, because we do celebrate a results-driven remote work culture where everyone knows how they contribute to the greater good and to the bigger success. So they are not demanding their people to shift the way they operate. They are demanding their leaders to shift the way they lead.
Yes.
So there is an opportunity in it, and some people will take it. Other organizations will just fail to embrace that opportunity.
And they're fighting against that. And I just finished reading this book here. It's by Heather McGowan and Chris Shipley. It's called The Empathy Advantage: Leading the Empowered Workforce. And they very much, this is a great book. I can't wait to have them on. Really, it's very, very smart, very, very well done. And they are very much saying that, this is the work is in the hands of workers today, and that they are becoming really the most important stakeholder. And then, of course, last week we had on Tiffany Bova, who wrote the experience mindset, and she's putting forth that now today you must actually satisfy and fulfill at the same time equally the employees and the customers. So you were definitely seeing a trend toward this here. So I'm looking at these companies that are wanting to go back to prior to 2019 sort of policies, and they're fighting this. And I'm thinking, you're going to lose. You're going to lose on this deal. So I like what you said in your book too. You say, try to find ways to give your employees goals and base your performance measurements on how well they deliver on those goals. And then you also talked in the book too about just these old dated, job descriptions that are actually, they're really based more on the past performance, et cetera. And anyway, the point is, I like you, am out to help create and steward the workplace of the future. And that is not the future.
No, but not everyone is able to see the future and shape the future. And I don't want to judge. I mean, I say they are stupid. Yeah, they are stupid in this way, but they are very smart in other ways. And we only look at them from the outside, and there must be very, very good reasons to do that, to order people back to the offices. But honestly speaking, if I take a look at the leadership culture in North America, and I can say it because I'm not North American, I just came here 3 years ago. It is so different how the companies are being led in the US versus how they are being led in Europe. The mindset around command and control and the whole corporate culture is so different that it has its own pace. And I believe, as you said, in the end, we will see who wins this race. But I guess we all know who will win this race. It's just a question when leaders will embrace what's coming their way. But if you just stick your head into the sand and hope that the storm will pass, that's just not going to happen. There are enough examples out there of companies in North America that I work with, companies in Europe that have successfully shifted within a very short time frame from a presence to a results-led organization, and they are delivering results like crazy. It's really about making that leap from command and control to enabling and empowering your employees to help them understand how do they contribute to the bigger picture, what is their role in bringing the strategy of an organization to life and to create tangible impact. And I don't have to sit in a darn cubicle next to 50 other people to do that. Like, I'm not a hen in a cage that lays eggs. Why should I work like that?
Beautifully said, Alex, and completely aligned. On that note, let's take our next break. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. We've been on the air with Alex Brueckmann, who is the author of Secrets of Next Level Entrepreneurs, 11 Powerful Lessons to Thrive in Business and Lead a Balanced Life. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Dr. Elise Cortez is a management consultant specializing in meaning and purpose, an inspirational speaker and author. She helps companies visioneer for greater purpose among stakeholders and develop purpose-inspired leadership and meaning-infused cultures that elevate fulfillment, performance, and commitment within the workforce. To learn more or to invite Elise to speak to your organization, please visit her at elisecortez.com. Let's talk about how to get your employees working on purpose. This is Working on Purpose with Dr. Elise Cortez. To reach our program today or to open a conversation with Elise, send an email to Elise, A-L-I-S-E, at elisecortez.com. Now, back to Working on Purpose.
Thanks for staying with us and welcome back to Working on Purpose. I mentioned in the first break about the Purpose and Joy Tour. I want to share with you that the two of my latest books that are part of that tour, they both came out in March of 2023. One is called The Great Revitalization, How Activating Meaning and Purpose Can Radically Enliven Your Business. This is for leaders to help them understand and build elevating and high-performing leadership and cultures. The other book that just came out is called Coloring Life, How Loss Invites Us to Live More Vibrant Lives, which helps people navigating loss transform to growth and vitality. You can find them both on Amazon as well. If you're just joining the program now, my guest is Alex Brueckmann. He is a strategy facilitator, speaker, and author. He's the author of Secrets of Next Level Entrepreneurs, 11 Powerful Lessons to Thrive in Business and Lead a Balanced Life. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. So for this last section here, Alex, I wanted to cover a few things that, again, there's so much I could pull out of you. But I do want to have you speak a little bit about the notion of creating an impact culture. Doing good within and with your culture includes things like, you say, contributing to your employees and customers' well-being. You have a few things there that are part of this impact culture. Can you speak a little bit to that?
It goes back to the conversation we had around how do you align your purpose and your business strategy to create tangible impact. And with that, obviously, comes the need for leadership that can drive such processes. And the reason you need leadership is because it just won't happen by itself. And when I say that, even if you have the best leaders, in the sense that they have all the subject matter expertise that's needed to achieve results, it's not their subject matter expertise that will create the culture that you need in order to create an impact. So knowledge and capabilities, hard skills, will only get you to a certain point. Beyond that, it needs understanding of what is it that this business wants to build. We're talking about legacy in the end. And as leaders work their way into strategy, into creating culture, into building something bigger than themselves, and this is true for entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and this is also true if you lead a large organization, there is something that drives you towards leading. There are a lot of people that realize at one point or another in their life that they're not meant to lead, that they don't find any joy and fulfillment in it, and they step away from it. And then there are people who stay with it because what they personally get out of leading is way, way bigger than just the paycheck that comes with it. Mm-hmm. It's fulfillment, it's joy, it's pride. And when you dig into these feelings, for them, it's around helping the people around them thrive, helping them lead more fulfilling lives, helping them see how they contribute to something that is worth contributing to. So creating that impact culture basically means is to lead conversations around what the purpose and desired impact of an organization is. That's the bigger picture. When you bring it closer to the people, it is about how they contribute, how every individual contributes to achieving those results. And it is about helping them grow into the best version of themselves that they can possibly be. And that requires a individual approach for everyone, because everyone has a different starting point. Everyone has a different history. Everyone has different goals for their own lives. So when we talk about legacy, we're basically talking about 3 levels of legacy. The legacy you work toward as a leader individually. So when you move on or when you leave a business, what do people actually say about you? Do they look at you and be like, created amazing results, but was a terrible people leader? Or is it might not have been the best strategist in the world, but man, that person developed talent in our organization like no one else.
Yes.
Then we have a second layer of legacy that you work toward. That's the legacy basically for the team that you lead. does the way you lead create a ripple effect through the organization because other people see how you lead, see the results you achieve, and therefore start to emulate the way you lead? And thereby, leading by example, create more than just, a handful of potential future leaders, but actually start shaping the leadership culture in your business. And then the third layer of legacy is the legacy that you create for the organization that you lead. Is your business seen in society as a contributor to the greater good? Or is your company just seen as a business that destroys nature to extract precious metals from Mother Earth, for example? So there are conscious choices that you can make as a leader on those three levels. You can pick an organization whose values and business resonates with the legacy you want to create as an individual and as a leader, or you can just continue working as you've always done without thinking about these things. It's your choice.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that speaks so beautifully. That was so beautifully articulated, Alex. I could listen to you talk about that forever. And in many ways, I could probably chime in and say almost exactly the same things because I very much align with your message. But it really also speaks to one of the things you pointed out in the book is when it comes to pivotal changes is this notion of conscious business and social responsibility and conscious business. I see this everywhere, and not just because I serve on the board of Conscious Capitalism here in Dallas, and two of my books are very much threaded with the notion of conscious business and conscious capitalism. But I run in so many different circles where that surround sound is just everywhere, it seems today.
Which is good. We've
I think
come
it's
a long
great.
way.
I feel like, yes, we have. So what I'm going to call the episode when I talk with Heather and Chris about the empathy advantages, the leaders have been kicked upstairs, and maybe they don't like it, but they have been kicked upstairs, and they are being asked to perform on a whole other level. And I know it's uncomfortable, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we're here with you. We're here to help you. But it's, we are being asked, all of us as business people, to do more than just make a nice profit. We are being asked to be more gentle to the planet, to do things through a purpose lens. We are asked now to be able to lead our teams in a more enlightened, evolved way than we did last year, the year before, et cetera. And that's just part of it. It's back to that whole disruption thing you were talking about before. And I find it extremely exciting, occasionally very exhausting, and really, really innovating to get to help other organizations to come along with this stride. And so that's why I keep hosting the show, Alex, is because I get to meet people like you who continue to elevate my thinking, expand the way that I look at how it is that I consult, how it is that I'm speaking. So I love being part of this world. So that I get to speak with a strategist like you too on this topic is really exciting for me. So thank you, Alex, for sharing all these perspectives.
My pleasure.
You also spoke one thing too that I thought was interesting about just the notion of how the workplace is changing. We talked about the great resignation. I talk about that. That's why my book is called The Great Revitalization, because it speaks to the resignation. You wrote about that in your book as part of this, the effort here. But you also talked about the aging and emerging workforce. A large population of baby boomers are preparing for retirement, and we've got this new generation coming in, and that's causing some changes and some mix in the workplace. Can you speak a bit to that change?
The change comes with people that are more conscious about what they value. They are more outspoken about what they value.
Yes.
And they are less willing to compromise on what they value than, let's say, previous generations might have been. And they have the example of how life can look like, which is dominated by work, and they don't want that. Very clear example. My father passed away when he reached his legal retirement age, and he has worked his bum off his entire life. A typical boomer that has just driven himself into supporting his family the best way he could. And in that whole process, probably has left a few of the things that he truly cared about or valued. He just traded them in. And I don't want to in any shape or form judge about generations here. It's just that we've seen what this can lead to if we do not bring our values to work. If we leave them at the front door, we're not showing up as the human beings that we are. And that can lead to taking decisions as part of a business that are not necessarily sustainable decisions, that are not humane decisions. And therefore, we need to bring our values to work and not leave them at the front door. The generational impact that we're seeing is that more and more people are more outspoken about what they value. And I believe in that is a tremendous opportunity for businesses, for society, to build businesses that are more than just profit generators, or more than just a provider of, let's say, a stable work environment. And the whole illusion of stability or security, we need to get rid of that anyway, because, I mean, you can lose your job tomorrow for whichever reason. So
that's right.
there
Happens
is
all the
no
time.
job security,
Right.
and there is no stability. So why not, if that's not there anyway, why act in ways that aren't in line with who you are to keep that illusion alive? And I believe the more we see younger generations come into work, the more prominent that topic just becomes in our conversations. And I have a 3.5-year-old child. If I imagine him in, let's say, the work environment we're in today, I'm just like, yeah, no, I don't want that for him. So once he will be in a working age, that's probably somewhere in around 15 years. I'm so curious to see what we can do within those 15 years to create workspaces and workspaces that are aligned with who we are as human beings, with values that are deeply humane, and how fulfilling that might be and feel when that generation then joins the workforce.
That's incredibly compelling and inspiring. And yes, it should continue to evolve. That's the whole notion of my life continue to evolve. So to me, when I see those younger generations coming up, I get really inspired and excited because they're elevating us. It's expanding our humanity. It is allowing us to be able to pull more deeply and richly across our humanity, to be able to contribute and work and create through business. And I find that really compelling. So we've done it, Alex. We've gotten to the end of the show already. It goes by so very fast.
Wow, that was quick.
I know. So this show is listened to by people around the world who really care about creating workplaces where they can thrive. Just the things you're saying. They're led by inspirational leaders that bring them to their greatness, and we do business that betters the world. What would you like to leave them with today?
The deeply human desire to be part of something that is worth to be part of is something that I feel should drive us as entrepreneurs and as corporate leaders, to build these workplaces. And I mean, even if you've been around for a while, and you've learned a certain way to lead and to create results, if you're not happy with it, change it. Dare to make that first little step, and you might be surprised of what's on the other side of the line for you.
What a beautiful way to finish, Alex. Very, very grateful that we crossed paths and I got to read your book and learn from you and now share with my listeners and viewers around the world. Thank you for being on Working on Purpose.
Thanks so much, Elise, for having me.
You're welcome. Listeners, viewers, if you want to learn more about Alex Brueckmann, his work, or his book, Secrets of Next Level Entrepreneurs, you can start by visiting alexthestrategist.com. Last week, if you missed the live show, you can always catch it via recorded podcast. We were on the air with Tiffany Bova talking about her new book, The Experience Mindset, which puts forth the central idea for companies to succeed in today's economy that they must equally nurture the customer and the employee experience. What makes her point so compelling, though, is that she's not an organizational psychologist and logotherapist like me. She's a business growth strategist, an innovation expert, a numbers person, and she's talking about this stuff. So pay attention to that. She's got some really amazing numbers in the book to go along with it. Next week, we'll be on the air with Dr. Pele, a delightful man. I've known him for several years, talking about his new book called Profitable Happiness, the 5 Key Habits of a High-Performance Organization. See you there. And remember that work is an integral and important part of our lives and can be one of the best adventures and means of realizing our potential and making the impact we crave. So let's work on purpose.
We hope you've enjoyed this week's program. Be sure to tune into Working on Purpose, featuring your host, Dr. Elise Cortez, each week on W4CY. Together, we'll create a world where business operates conscientiously, leadership inspires impassioned performance, and employees are fulfilled in work that provides the meaning and purpose they crave. See you there. Let's work on purpose.